Hello, thank you everyone for attending our session today. My name is Sophia Zahner, and I'm the Educational Outreach Specialist at the John W. Kluge Center at the Library of Congress. And this is my colleague, Mike. Mike, I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Michael Stratmoen. I am program specialist at the John Kluge Center at the Library of Congress, and I run with a colleague our fellowship programs, our internship programs, and our events.
And together we're going to be presenting on the fellowship opportunities open this year at the Kluge Center. Thank you to ISA for having us today. The majority of this time is going to be for questions, but we'll start with a brief overview of the center, its, goals and how our fellowships work within the broader mission of the center. Mike will then talk more specifically about the fellowships that are open this year, and then we'll turn it over to questions from you all. So to begin, I'll start with talking about the center. So the John W. Kluge Center was founded October 5th, 2000. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary. And we are located in the main Thomas Jefferson building of the Library of Congress. Our mission is to support scholars doing innovative and specialized work in the humanities and social sciences and connect that work with policymakers and the public. We do that through a few core, aspects of our mission. We have events for members of Congress and their staff, like dinners, lunches, opportunities for our scholars to present their work to those groups. We also have scholarly symposium, conferences about specific topics. Every year we host a KISLAC workshop related to our KISLAC chair that studies the early Americas. For example, we also have a $500,000 prize, the John W. Kluge Prize that we give every other year to someone who has made a major contribution to the humanities. And then finally, and perhaps the largest part of our work is bringing scholars like you all into the library to do research. So the Kluge Fellowship opportunities are residential research opportunities to study in the library's collections. This is the Kluge Center that you're seeing on your screen. We're kind of a ship-in-a-bottle office that exists right off of the main reading room that you saw in the last slide. Our scholars get offices right off of that main reading room. They're able to do research, and I will actually go to the next slide so you can kind of see. Our scholars have their own office space to do to hold books that they pull from our library collection. They actually have book privileges like Library of Congress staff members and members of Congress. So they're able to take books out of the library. They also, have space to, keep those books, do their work, and also be in community with each other. One of the big aspects of the Kluge Center is that our scholars get to meet other Kluge fellows and, bounce ideas off, grow across, different fields of study. So we really emphasize that community aspect of being in residence at the center. So we have two levels of or two kind of areas of residential research. We have our chairs, which are more senior scholars. They're scholars that are probably mid to more further along in their career. And then our early career scholars are our fellowships. So those are up to 7 years postdoc, usually, not always. But Mike will get a little bit more into detail about that in a bit. So just a little bit about the library. The library has 16 reading rooms on its DC campus. One way to think about that is as 16 libraries within one library. As of 2023, this is not the most current number, so it's probably even higher. It has 178.2 million items, 25.5 million catalog books, 138.5 million special collection items. So those are like manuscripts, letters, sheet music, things like that are special collection items. And that kind of means that we have something for everyone. One thing I like to point out specifically is that we generally have a lot of the largest collections of certain countries outside of that country. So for example, we have the largest Russian collection outside of Russia. And we have that because the library has focused on collecting a little bit about everything. We like to say we're the largest accumulation of knowledge in the world's history. So we do really, one thing I want to say is we really recommend that you use our Ask a Librarian function to connect with a librarian from one of our reading rooms to find out what they might have for your research. This will be critical when you're applying for the Kluge Fellowship or for any of our fellowships because you'll be asked what library collections uh, are are the reason why you want to come into residence at the Kluge Center. And if you work through our Ask a Librarian, you might be able to find out very specific collections that will show us that you've kind of done the legwork to find out what the library has to offer you. And those librarians will also be able to offer you things that might not be listed on our website. So unprocessed collections, collections that, aren't appearing in our catalog for one reason or the other. So I highly recommend using that Ask a Librarian function. Um, and you can find that through any of these reading room main pages if you go on the library's website. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mike to talk about fellowships at the Kluge Center in a little bit more detail and the fellowships that are going to be available this year to you all. This is a little look inside the Kluge Center. That bookcase is actually full of books written by Kluge scholars, just a small subsection actually. Um, but without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Hello, everybody. As she said, I help run our fellowship programs in-house here at the John Kluge Center. These ones that you see here open April 15th to September 15th. These are our four core fellowship programs that we run here at the Kluge Center. The Kluge Fellowships, this is 12 that's open every year. We get applications from all over the social sciences and humanities. There's a Kluge Fellowship in Digital Studies, and this is the digital aspect of humanities and social sciences research. That is two a year. We have the David Larson Fellowships in Health and Spirituality, and this is one or two are selected each year from that. And then finally, this is a sort of hybrid program, the Philip Lee Phillips Society Fellowships. This is actually a fellowship run by our Geography and Map Division. And two fellows are chosen from that every year, but we sort of run the whole process for them. We'll go now deeply into them. So, next slide. So, the Kluge Center, we encourage humanistic and social science research that makes use of our large and varied collections. And interdisciplinary and cross-cultural research is welcome here at the Kluge Center. So the main eligibility requirement is a scholar has to receive a terminal degree within the past 7 years in the humanities, social sciences, or professional fields such as architecture and law. So a JD, for example, in law is the terminal degree for that. A PhD is the most standard degree in this for this eligibility requirement. And so it's meant for early career stage researchers. They're offered anywhere from 4 to 11 months. On the application, the applicant selects how long that they would like, and it's a $5,000 per month stipend. It's really important, this fellowship, really all the fellowships, you have to, in order to be considered and to be successful, a scholar really needs to express exactly how the Library of Congress and its collections are vital to the completion and success of this research. For example, if they are asking for something that we have that 10 libraries around the world have, they're likely not going to get funded. But if they are specifically looking for the manuscript division's collections of certain government officials, say in the 1900s in the State Department, that we only have, then that is going to be seen as very, very important and highly valuable to the people that eventually will be analyzing these applicants to see who should be selected. And it's like that for the other four. I just like to say that first so that people know. Can we go to the next slide? The fellowships in digital studies. So this is sort of like the Kluge Fellowship, but we're really focusing on this one on the digital aspect of humanities research. We really like people who are making digital tools, who are trying to make things available online for the first time for people, but also proposals that explore and analyze emerging trends and new phenomena that may generate changes in the future in in studies in humanities and social sciences. This one does not have a PhD requirement. It's open to scholars and practitioners worldwide. I would say I've been at the Kluge Center since 2018, and about half of the people that get this fellowship do have a PhD or a terminal degree, but the others do not. They are just very strong practitioners doing whatever it is that they've gotten the fellowship to do. This also is a $5,000 per month stipend for anywhere from 4 to 11 months. And like I said, we choose generally two a year for this program. Next slide. This is a sort of niche topic. This one here, this is our David B. Larson Fellowship in Health and Spirituality. So we invite qualified scholars to apply for a postdoctoral fellowship in the field of health and spirituality and sort of how they might mingle together. Or play off of each other. And so we get in the past years, generally we choose one person, but we have had years where we've chosen two scholars for this program. This one, you have to have the PhD, and you also have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident of the United States to apply to this specific fellowship program. Also, $5,000 a month. 6 to 12 months is the time period instead of 4 to 11. The next slide. This is the one I mentioned earlier, that it's sort of like a cross-pollination between us and the Geography and Map Division. They have the Phillips Society at the what we call GNM at that division, and they provide for funding for up to two scholars to come use the Geography and Map Division's collections for 2 months. And that is a $5,750 stipend per month for 2 months. Just like the digital, there's not a degree requirement. This is more set up for practitioners as well. They do have to have a history of successful accomplishment in the field of geography, cartography, or history, and a record of publication. And this one, people can be U.S. citizens or foreign nationals. And the next slide, Sophia and I both wanted to mention that we do have a number of partnership fellowship programs. And these bring in a very large number of scholars a year to the Kluge Center. These are not partnerships. We do not fund these specific scholars. They are funded by these fellowship programs. They're generally vetted and presented to us either for final approval, or we just know that we will take the scholars that they have selected. But they are given the exact same rights as those scholars from those core programs I just mentioned to you. So just like all of our fellows, they have access to up to 250 books from the general collections at their desks. They're able to bring books out of the libraries, outside the library, just like members of Congress, their staff, and Library of Congress employees. So I'd just like to take a moment. The AHRC UKRI, this is our largest partnership. It's with the United Kingdom government. We also have Black Mountain Institute, Frederick Burkhardt, the Fellowships in Aerospace, Bavarian American Academy, a Swan Foundation, Rylands, German Library of Congress, and Stereoscopic. These vary wildly by the amount of time that people can come. Some, like the Stereoscopic, are as little as Swan, are as little as 2 to 3 weeks. But the ones like AHRC or Bavarian or even Rylands, there could be up to 6, 7 months of time. So this slide deck will be made available, I believe. So if later you can look at these partnership fellowships to see if you're qualified to apply to those as well. And because you can always ask through those fellowships to be placed at the Library of Congress at the John W. Kluge Center. And I believe that's the last slide for me. I can say this actually. There are two helpful links we wanted you to have. The first is our application portal. Those four fellowship programs I mentioned, we have an application portal for applicants to use to apply to that program. That is the link for it. And if there's any questions that you have about it, you will be directed to a help desk, and all questions go directly to me. So any questions you have, I will see them if you're trying to apply. And then on our webpage, I believe on our landing page or close to it at the Kluge Center at the Library of Congress, there is a tutorial video for that application portal. So I suggest that before going on to it, that you watch that video. It's about 20 minutes, and it's really helpful to uh, those who are applying to our programs. Thank you for your time, and I really look forward to speaking to people and getting applications.
And real quick before we turn it over to questions, I just wanted to mention, as Mike already stated, most of our fellowship programs are open to, everyone internationally. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen. The Larson one, I believe, is the only Kluge in-house fellowship that requires U.S. citizenship. Otherwise, we do even have staff at the library that will help you through the visa process if you are coming internationally. So, we are happy now to answer any questions that you have about the information we shared. I do want to point you to our website for further information about those partnership fellowships that Mike mentioned, as well as the fellowships we discussed today. And then that email, scholarly@loc.gov, will also go to Mike for further questions. If you realize that after this meeting, there you have another question, we can answer it there. So without further ado, I will allow questions. I believe we're going through Q&A. So I will open that up right now and start answering those questions. So please feel free to submit them through the Q&A box and we will answer them. Thank you all. And thank you again to ISA for having us. We really appreciate it. We have a question in the Q&A. It says, eligibility related question. Do the senior fellowships have a time limit after PhD? So our fellowships that are our general Kluge fellowships have a time limit after PhD, which is up to 7 years postdoc. If you're asking about specifically those chairs that I mentioned that are for more senior scholars, those are by nomination. Those are not by application. So, someone, a peer scholar can nominate you for those chairs. And those do not have a specific time limit, but they are not by application. So the ones that do not have a time limit are those digital studies fellowships, and the ones, the Philip Lee Phillips and Larson Fellowship do not have a time limit. And I would also recommend checking out our partnership fellowships because some of them also do not have time limits. Do I just dismiss, I think, right? If I've answered it, answer live. There we go. Okay, I'm a PhD student and I plan to graduate May 2027. Should I apply this year or the next? Mike, I will let you answer that question.
Depends on the program. If it's the Kluge Fellowship, you would need to apply next year. If it's the digital or the Philip Lee's, then you can apply this year.
From Daniel Yoon, thank you for this presentation. Do kindly confirm, to be eligible, must the applicant already have completed PhDs at the time of application, so September, or can nearly completed PhD candidates still apply as long as the PhD is completed prior to the beginning of the fellowship? Mike, I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong, but generally the rule is that whether you have the PhD in hand by the closing date of the fellowship application. So do you have the PhD in hand by September 15th is our question for that.
Otherwise, we will welcome your application the following year.
Our next question is, when do the nomination for chairs open? Is this information on the website? So great question. The nominations for chairs are every other year. So when the years that we're not soliciting nominations for the Kluge Prize. So this coming year actually will be a chair nomination year. Those will generally start this summer and fall. And that information is usually, I think, on the website, but if not, you can email scholarly@loc.gov and we can make sure that information gets to the right place if you have a nomination. My highest degree is an MA in history and an MA in Islamic history and culture, and I am working as an assistant professor at the university level. May I apply for your fellowship? Which program may I apply to? Okay, thank you for this question. So, for history, an MA is not considered a terminal degree by our definition. With that in mind, the Kluge fellowships will not, you will not be eligible for those. However, if you do something related to digital humanities, you are still eligible for the digital studies fellowship, as well as if you do something with geography and maps, you would be eligible for the Philip Lee Phillips Society fellowship. And then that email address is the one that is, so the question was, what was the address for the nominations? It's the email address on the PowerPoint slide that you're seeing right now. Oh, okay, I see that. Thank you.
Just came in through the chat. How many fellowships are available per year for the Kluge Fellowship? Kluge Fellowship.
15 per year, right, Mike?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 12 for the Kluge, um, and then one or two for the other three.
Just to note really quickly, regarding that, the Kluge Fellowship, one thing that we do have a lot of questions about that maybe I should note before we leave is that a lot of folks we will, maybe decrease their ask in terms of months of being in residence because they think that they might have a higher chance of success with like lower amount of months. One thing we look for is the feasibility of your project in the amount of months that you're asking for. So truly do make sure that you're asking for the amount of months you need, not a lower amount, because we budget for everyone having the full amount of time that they could possibly have. So it's not like we will be able to take more if someone asks for less, if that makes sense. So make sure you're asking for what you need so that we can assess whether or not you're able to actually do that project in the time you asked for.
Is there any percentage given for the different parts of the world for international applicants?
Um, I apologize. I'm a little confused about the question. If
Um,
it's is it like referring to like, do we have to have a certain number?
and clarify if I'm getting this wrong. I think that it refers to like, do you take a certain number of people from different parts of the world? So of that 15, do you have like five allotted for people from the global south or five allotted or is
Gotcha.
that, yeah, I think that's what the question means. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No.
So, our applications are not, there's not like a set number based on where applications are coming from. They're just reviewed, individually as whether or not it's a successful application, if that makes sense. So we're, I guess, comparing them to each other, but there's not a certain subset amount like set for a certain region, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's I'll give it one more second for any other lingering questions since we have the
Yeah.
time. Um, but I do think if there's anything that occurs to anyone out after the presentation, they're walking away in an hour, they're like, "Oh, I should have asked that." They should feel free to email for any outstanding questions that might not get answered.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I will give you back the rest of your time. We really appreciate it. And we'll make sure that we get you the information about the fellowships and this PowerPoint following this session. Thank you for joining us. We really, again, thank you to ISA for having us. And good luck on your applications if you decide to apply. We look forward to reviewing them.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. And look into your email for more information on this opportunity, because we'll be sending it to everyone who attended. So, yeah, have a great rest of your day.